Hey, good morning. Welcome to Life Online. I'm glad you've joined us. We have been looking in some of the early chapters of Romans that lays out a foundation of the mercy of God. And I want to take you to what I believe is a great mercy passage. Because here's the Apostle Paul who pens these words, and we see him as such a spiritual giant, and we get an inside look into some spiritual things that are taking place within his life, and it's real. And this is part of the real struggle for every single one of us who follows Christ. For you see, God's mercy has brought us into a brand new realm. We're no longer the slaves to sin that we used to be, but instead it is a whole new spiritual walk that opens up to us, but we don't always walk in the power of the Spirit. Well, let's head to what the Apostle Paul says, and we're going to take just a couple of minutes and try to summarize what God is saying to us about mercy. So here's the passage. This is Romans chapter 7. For what I am doing, I do not understand, for I am not practicing what I would like to do, but I am doing the very thing I hate. But if I do the very thing I do not want to do, I agree with the law, confessing that the law is good. So now, no longer am I the one doing it, but sin which dwells in me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is in my flesh. For the willing is present in me, but the doing of the good is not. For the good that I want, I do not do, but I practice the very evil that I do not want. But if I am doing the very thing I do not want, I am no longer the one doing it, but sin which dwells in me. So here's what I want us to do. I just want us to pay attention to just some highlights. So here's the highlight reel. And the first one is this, that sin really is a perplexing mystery. If the Apostle Paul, the spiritual giant that he was, talks about this tension that he feels. By the way, there's a good word picture maybe for us. I think this was a little bit what was going on inside of the Apostle Paul. He knew the goodness of God and the mercy of God, and he knew this new life that he had through Christ, and he knew what it was to have this power of this Spirit and the more than enough abundance, and yet there were times that there was also a pull of an old nature, a sin nature in his life, and he lived and he felt the tension. Now, this struggle with sin is what is so baffling to Paul. He's a mature believer. He does not understand why he is still sinning when he has a new heart that loves God. And why does he still sin when he has a new nature with new affections and the Holy Spirit now lives inside of him? He cannot understand why he still sins. It is bewildering to him. So here he is. He's brutally honest. Thank God for that. You see, he does not try to present himself as hyper-spiritual. He is pulling back the veil of his inner life and being gut-level honest with us. And I deeply appreciate that. For those of us who are believers, this should be an echo of the perplexity we should feel within our own hearts. When we end the day in prayer, there are sins we must confess that make no sense why we would even commit them. So why would we be egotistical? Why would greed or lust or worldliness or covetousness or any other sins rear their ugly head in our lives and have dominance? But guess what? For all of us, at times they do. And we wonder why these types of sins continue to plague us. Sin is a perplexing issue. And in all of that, it really does, this dilemma exposes our weakness. This is what we need to learn. If we think that we have got something in ourselves that is the power to work out our problems, if we think that our wills are strong enough or that we can control evil in our lives by simply determining to do so, then we have not come to the end of ourselves yet. The Spirit of God will simply fold his arms and he will let us go ahead and try in our own willpower to accomplish our own godliness and our path, our spiritual path. But we fail, and we fail miserably, until at last, out of our failures, we cry. And this is the cry that arose from Paul. What a wretched man I am. Who will rescue me from the body of death? Do you see here? Paul understands. Oh yes, he's born anew of the Spirit, but he desperately needs this mercy of God every single day of his life. And this is the final thing that we've got to pay attention to. Mercy comes through every time we surrender. Every single time you call out to God. every single time you run to him, rest in the victory of Jesus and walk in the power of the Holy Spirit. For verse 25 in Romans 7 says, thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ my Lord. So this is the great mercy of God, and I want to challenge you today, live out your life today. Not in your own strength, not in your own abilities, not in your own power, not in your own religion and religious strength, but instead desperately move to the mercy of God. Lean into him. He's there for you. Oh, what great mercy. Have a blessed day.